Hi, everybody. Hey, look behind me. Can you see it? I'm sitting on the porch up north in this place that I've come to since I was a little girl. Well, actually, this place I've only come to since I was a young teenager, but it's still light up here because we're so far north. We're only about 40 miles south of Duluth. And this is Manabear. This is Granny's Lake. This is the place, do you remember my story about Evelyn? Right over there is where the homestead was. And right behind me, we're sitting on the porch with the lake behind us, and in front of me is a place where the pool of water showed up. And so we're in that place, but I have to tell you that it feels so peaceful here. It feels so quiet. And I know about quiet and noisy. And for so many years, this place was noisy. And it is so quiet. Let me just be still for a minute. And you can listen and just hear this place. Can you feel it too? We're sitting at the table where every year that I would come up here, my mother would sit at the head of the table. And as we would drive in the driveway just down there, we would give a couple of honks and I could hear her voice, "Oh, it's T.I." And she would sit at that side of the table and we'd pull in and come in, and even after driving 10 hours, before even going to the bathroom, there was one thing you had to do first, and that was to come and hug Granny. And as we drove in, I know she's not here physically, so I was able to go to the bathroom as soon as I needed to. 10 hours is a long time. But as we drove in, I could just feel her arms. I could just feel her arms around this place. And not in a creepy way, not like, "Oh, Granny's here watching everything we do." Granny watched everything we do when we were teenagers, and she said, "Go to bed, you're all stinking drunk." But now, it's just her arms around this place. And as we come back here, she's so welcoming, and her presence is here, but her ghost is not. Because if anyone has learned the lesson that I keep saying, it's my mother. The lesson that first we are here, then we are everywhere. And that's where she is. She is everywhere. And her arms, her big, strong, loving arms are here and around all of us. And holy macaroni and cheese, it feels so good to be here sitting at this table. This is also the table that my grandfather sat in, the spot where then my mother sat when it came here. And I told you stories about my grandfather and how he would sweep the crumbs off the table and feed the house spirits. This is that table. And so when I put my hands on this table, I can see myself as that tiny little girl whose feet couldn't reach the floor, as well as that young mother who sat here with a baby on her lap, feeding them from the plate, as well as now the woman that I am, coming back to this place. And I feel all the hands that have swept crumbs on this table and that have fed the house spirits and will continue to do that, hopefully forever. And if not, oh well, I won't be here anymore. So on that note, as you can see, the sun is starting to set, and I've been talking about, first we have to do cheers. I didn't do cheers yet. Cheers, everybody. Here's to another evening of looking into things that are here that we don't always see. Whew, that's a nice drink. Thanks, Scott. Scott made this one for me. You might hear some voices in the background because Scott and Bunce are back there working on food and doing what Buncey does, which is blah, blah, blah. But it isn't blah, blah, blah. It's always talking about important stuff. So if you hear voices in the background, they are not paranormal. They are the fellers in there who are working on putting together some food for after this broad, I don't know what you call these, this story time is over. So anyway, this is my first night here. We left Cadillac about just before 9 and drove all effing day. And yes, I drove the whole way because that's how I roll. It's also better for my injured arm to have the armrest right there and be able to pillow it. So that worked out great. Plus I drank about 4 ounces of caffeinated coffee today, so it got me all the way here. And if I'm talking fast now, I'm probably still feeling the effects because I do not do caffeine. So, so here we are in this place, and Bunce and I came up before the others in our family are up, except I'm here with my little sister, Mimi, and I'm so happy to be here with Mimi. We share so many things. We share an understanding between us that few people do. We share a history that nobody else does. Mimi was my first child. I was 7 or 8 when she was born, so in my family I was pretty much an adult by then. And I helped raise her, and I raised her to be a feminist and to question authority and to be an artist. And you know that metaphor about when you put someone on your shoulders, how they go from there? That's how I feel about my sister Mimi, that when I put her on my shoulders as a little teeny kid, she got to start a few feet off the ground, and then she took off from there, and now I get to watch her accomplishments and the impact that she has in this world. And just like I get to watch the impact of my own children, I get to watch hers, and it makes me very happy. And you know, I know there's a word proud, but it isn't proud. It's amazed and gleeful at the impacts that she makes. So I have Mimi here, and she has had some pretty amazing experiences. She is. Here's my sister Mimi. And she has had some amazing experiences. We were talking tonight about, she said, but I'm not a storyteller. Well, seriously, wait till you hear it. But she's had some pretty amazing experiences. And these aren't like haunting experiences like when I talk about talking to ghosts. These are things, there are places in the world where when we find our human selves there are others who also dwell there. You know this. I've talked to you about this in many different stories. And she's had some experiences where she herself has been in a place and encountered the others who dwell there. And these may not be ghosts, or they may be ghosts. But there's more here than just the humans and the remnants of humans. Let me just tell you that right now. It's not all about us. There is so much more to what is around us and with us and within us. And so I'm going to try to do this gracefully. I know I've done this before when guests have been with me, and turn my phone a little bit. And as it gets dark, we did light some candles, so hopefully you'll still be able to see. But you'll see what it's like as the dark falls in this place. And we have spent countless hours at this table at this time of night as the darkness falls, telling stories and sharing our experiences and sharing stories. And so here we are again in the midst of a global pandemic, in this year of monumental change and awakening. And here's my sister Mimi. Like black.
Hi, everybody.
How's that? There you go.
Great.
Can you see okay? Okay.
So, T.I., thank you so much for that introduction. I mean, I can't tell you what you've meant to me and how you've shaped me in so many ways. Yeah.
Excuse me. There you go.
I am a feminist because of this one. So T.I. asked if I wanted to do a guest spot on her cast, and I couldn't think of a ghost story. But I did think of a time when something happened to me that I couldn't explain. And so I'll just tell you about it. I've been going to the Southwest, New Mexico mostly, but also southern Utah since the early 90s. And for the last 5 or so years, I've gone by myself. So I get in the car, I pack my camping gear, and I drive across Texas as fast as I can. Drivers in Texas are a whole other sort of thing. But my favorite place to go is a national monument called Hovenweep. And Hovenweep is, it's a national monument because it's ancient ruins of what are Pueblan ancestors. They used to be called Anasazi, and Anasazi in Navajo means enemy, and the narrative was that this is a dead society, that these are the ruins of a society that no longer exists. And the Pueblans, the Pueblan Indians in New Mexico and southern Utah were like, those are my grandparents. And so now we know this as a Pueblan ruin. And it's my favorite place to go. And you have to drive 2.5 hours on secondary roads to get there. So it's not real inhabited. And I usually try to show up in the middle of the week so no one else is there. And I pitch my tent, and you drive in, and the visitor center is right there, and there are ruins you can walk around and visit the ruins. But there's another set of ruins that are down a canyon, and you have to walk for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours to get to these ruins. There's no way to drive to them. So when you go there, if you do the walk, it's a great way to be alone in the ruins. And so it was 2 years ago. I woke up in my tent about 7 a.m. and I put on my backpack with water because it's the desert, and I walked the canyon, beautiful southwestern desert canyon, and I got to the ruins, and I was the only one there for like an hour and a half. And it was, I just pretty much sat and felt and got in tune with the place. And I saw another party coming up, so I decided to pack up my backpack, started heading back down the canyon, back to the campground. And all of a sudden I hear a sound over my right-hand shoulder, and it sounds like wind. And I'm in the canyon, but it sounds like pretty loud wind, like concentrated wind. And I knew it was a dust devil because previously when I was in, it was at Hovenweep. It was at Hovenweep. I was walking along, it wasn't a big canyon, but it was long enough that like you could see across, and it would maybe take you 10 minutes to walk all the way around to get to the other side. And I heard the wind sound, and it was a dust devil. And I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's a dust devil. And it moved. I watched it slowly move around the horseshoe of the canyon, and it was coming right at me. And a dust devil is a lot of wind and a lot of sand. So I hunkered down, because I was on the edge of the canyon, and hunkered down, and the dust devil came around, and I'm getting ready for it to hit me, and I closed my eyes, and right before it hit me, it dissipated, which can happen. And so I'm like, oh, okay, great. That was a weird experience. And I looked down right where I was at the canyon, and there were sherds of pottery from the ancient Pueblans right there. So that was my first experience with a dust devil. So I'm in Hovenweep 2 years ago, and I hear the sound, and I know it's a dust devil. So I turn around, and there's no dust devil. It would be unusual in the bottom of a canyon to have a dust devil. And I look up, and there's a hole in the rock formation, probably maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 feet wide, that is shaped like an eye, and right in the middle there's a rock like an eye. It looked like an eye to me. And so as I do in the Southwest, I think, okay, this is something that is significant. So I spent some time with that eye formation and tried to feel what it was telling me and why it called to me. And it was a really incredibly special experience for me. And so I thought I should pick up a rock to put in my altar so that I have some physical thing to remember and to experience it again. But like all national parks or national monuments, there's signs all over saying, don't take anything. Do not take rocks. Don't take anything. And Hovenweep rock is a particular color. Like if you see a Hovenweep rock, you know it's from Hovenweep. It's a particular color. And I stood there for 10 minutes. Like, should I take a rock? No, why are you special? If everyone did that, the rocks would disappear. Don't take a rock. Oh, but. And after 10 minutes, I decided I'm not going to take a rock. So I hiked out. And from there, I went to Bandelier National Monument, which is another set of ruins. I hiked. I had my backpack. I loaded it every morning in the tent, did my thing at Bandelier. And my last night on this trip, I was in Lincoln National Forest up in the mountains in New Mexico. And it's my favorite place for my last night because I'm usually the only one there. And actually, the campsite I picked, the elk come down the mountain in the evening, so you can see the elk around. But I get to the campsite, and I set up my tent, and I open up the back of my car, and the cooler was on the back end, and my backpack that I hike with was on top of the cooler. And in the outside mesh pocket of my hiking backpack was a rock, and it was Hovenweep rock. And I have no idea how this rock got there. When I saw it, I was like, what is that? And I pull it out, and I see it's a Hovenweep rock. And I had spent time at other places with the backpack. It was on the exterior mesh pocket. And I pulled it out, and it was about the size of my palm. And it was shaped like this. And I pulled it out, and I put it between my hands, and I held it. And right now I have goosebumps. it was like the energy, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. I have no idea how that rock got there. And, you know, I have no explanation. This isn't a ghost story. This isn't like, I just have that rock, and it's at my house in New Orleans, and it's in my altar with the prayer card for my mom and some sand in a little dish from White Sands and some feathers that I've found in the Southwest. And it just captured what my experience in the Southwest is like. And I've had people hold it. I'm like, hold it like this in your hands. And, you know, people can feel there's something about it that is bigger than me or you or us, or no explanation. So that's my story.
So, let me tip over and I'll lean in. So, you two, I know you have no explanation, but do you have any inkling of how it came to you?
You know, I do feel, there was one time I was at Chaco Canyon, and I was walking up on a mesa. There are ruins on a mesa, and I was heading down from the mesa. And again, you know, to be perfectly honest, I'm going to go there. Like, I felt at home there, and I often feel like people recognize, like, oh,
Here
like,
you are.
we know you. And I was walking down, you know, to get down to it's a slot canyon to get off the mesa. It's really cool.
What's a slot canyon?
A slot canyon is, you're on the floor of the canyon, and then there's like a way up by, you know, like climbing through rocks. It's a slot in the canyon so you can get on the mesa. And then there's another set of ruins. You got to walk for an hour to get to the ruins. And I was heading back to the slot canyon, and again I heard a sound, or
Felt a vibration, which sound is.
yeah,
Sound is vibration.
Yeah, it
And
was.
so sometimes you
yeah.
perceive it as sound when it's
Yeah.
a vibration.
It was definitely a sort of like, hey, you, look over here. And I looked over my shoulder, and it was a hummingbird. Like on a flower, you know, paying no attention to me. But I was past it. I would have missed it if someone didn't say, hey, you there, look right there. And at Home Weep, I've had the hummingbirds like come into my face and like, zzz.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty special place.
Can you tell about like the first time you went there?
Oh yeah, the first time I went there, yeah, it was with Solon, and we toured the ruins, like, and talked about why they left, why they moved, why are they ruins. Yeah, it was a very spiritual vacation.
You told me once about finding some cairns that. Do you remember that? Maybe it was someone
There are
else.
cairns,
Yeah.
definitely. But I don't remember having a particularly special experience with cairns.
Okay. So, is there anything else you want to? Is there anything else you want to say about that, or can I shift to a different story?
Shift. Please shift.
Okay. So, oh, it's getting darker. Look at behind us. This is great. I look really red. It isn't spray tan because you could tell because I don't have those white circles around my eyes. Sorry, I couldn't resist. So, sorry, breaking down. Another thing that we talked about with Mimi here was oh, Mimi has also been a climber with her with Mark, who is another. I mean, sometimes you have these people that connect to you on a soul level, and there are people that talk about soulmates, and it's like one other person. But I'm here to tell you that sometimes it isn't just one other person, and sometimes you connect at a soul level with more than one person, and I think that's absolutely fine. So Mimi was with I'm going to give it back to her because she hadn't experienced mountain climbing. She used to. Do you still mountain climb?
No. Although I don't mountaineer.
She's not a mountaineer, but she was
I
mountaineering.
will always be a mountaineer, but I don't climb mountains anymore.
That makes
That
sense
shit
to me.
doesn't leave you.
Yeah, that shit doesn't leave you. So she has a couple of really cool stories, and I know I could like take this and tell other stories, but I really, next week Mimi won't be here, and I think it's really important. These are ghost stories with spooky Ms. T.I., and I've had multiple experiences with ghosts and with spirits and with interdimensional things and other crazy shit. But I think it's really important for you to know that it's not just me. And this isn't like a, call me up and tell me your ghost story type of thing. This is, I want you to realize at this time, in this place, at this time in our history, when everything is shifting, when gates are opening, when possibilities are opening, when it's scary, when we're not sure what's coming next, this is a time of great possibility. This is the time when the things that have kept us apart, we are having to experience forced being apart from those we love, forced being apart from groups of people that are part of our world. I would go into a place and everyone I would see I would hug. We would go to concerts or shows or events, and it's like, oh, it's so good to see you, and hug people and hug and connect physically. And we were connecting on this physical place. And I have to tell you, it's not all about us. And so here we are forced to isolate physically from others like us, other people. And I'm telling you right now that at this time, when we are isolated from the physical people that have become part of our world, there are things that have shared this world with us that are so close and that we have never acknowledged. And perhaps, I may be wrong, but I doubt it. Perhaps this is a time, I know I've said this before, that we've been sent to our room to think about it, but maybe we have been sent away from one another to start paying attention to who else is here with us. Who else shares this with us every single day? Not just when you walk into a haunted house, not just when you go on a ghost hunt, which I gotta tell you is the most offensive statement to me. What the hell? you go hunting to consume something. Anyway, so here we are, separated from one another. Maybe we can pay attention to those other beings near us who've been with us all along. You know, some people say guardian angels, some people say spirit guide, some people say demon, some people say angel. These beings have never been gone. They have just been put aside.
Can I just listening to what you were saying, they're, all mountaineers know that when the shit goes sideways, when things go sideways, most mountaineers, they feel like there's a companion with them. Everyone talks about this, that when you feel like you might be dying, all of a sudden there's a companion with you that says, get up, keep moving, here's what you have to do. And that's, I mean, if you're on the edge of death, you're going to pay attention to, and people, humans can't help you out of the situation. That's when these things that T.I. is talking about apparently show up for mountaineers.
I don't think they show up.
They're always there.
They're there, and when you're in that position, you realize they're there.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us some of your mountaineering stories.
Well, so I was telling T.I. earlier today, there was one time Mark and I were on Mount Rainier, and the route that we were doing, you go up to a hut, and that's the high place. That's the high camp, and you summit from the hut. And we got up to the hut, and there was a party of 2 people already in the hut. And, you know, we were unpacking our stuff, preparing for the summit the next day, and the ranger came in, the people who are up there, and he said, the mountain is super icy. You know, do what you want, but we would prefer that you don't climb in the next day or 2 because the mountain is so icy. And there's a party up there of 2 men, and we're going to search and rescue because we assume they should have been down by now, and they haven't gotten down, so we're going to do a search and rescue. It would be helpful to us if you didn't climb tomorrow. So we decided not to climb. We spent the next day, you know, hanging out, getting to know the other 2 people who were Hans and Christian, getting to know them and trading stories about climbing, and hanging out in the afternoon. And the ranger came up to us again and said, I'm really sorry to say that it's no longer a search and rescue, it's a body recovery. Which for a mountaineer, that's like, oh, you know, I mean for anybody, but for a mountaineer, when you're on the mountain and it's a body recovery, it's pretty hard. And so we're hanging out, and we see them coming down. They're coming down the mountain, and it's the rangers, and they've got sleds with the bodies on them, 2 bodies. And so we stay in the hut the next night, and it started to snow. It started to snow really hard. And Mark and I and the other 2 people, Christian and Hans, we were on the mountain. We're like, let's just, if we rope together, you know, there's snow now, there's a snowpack. We could go up higher and camp. We're not going to try to summit, but we're going to go up higher and camp. So we decided to do that, packed up our stuff, roped together, and trudged up a ways, and we found a spot that was already dug out. And Mark and I pitched our tent in the spot that was already dug out. And Hans and Christian dug a snow cave. And the snow started coming harder again. And Mark and I were in the tent. And all night, doot, 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 on the side of the tent. Doot, 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 on the side of the tent. And it was snowing, and certainly there was snow moving on the mountain, but it really felt like doot, 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 doot. All night. Those two guys were trying to get back into their tent because we had camped in where they had dug out to launch their summit attempt.
So when you mentioned that to Mark, how'd that go?
Oh my God. So I'm laying there and it's like do 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 do. And I feel like these guys are trying to get in the tent. And so I'm like, Mark, I think it might be those climbers trying to seek refuge. And there's a brief silence and he's like, fuck you! I'm not gonna sleep tonight. Sorry for my language, but that's actually what he said.
But that's what we do. It's like we point things out, and then people around us are like, no!
It was pretty intense, to be on the side of a mountain with the snow and hearing the doot, 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 the wind and the snow blowing on it. Yeah.
Have you had an experience when on the mountain when you've been aware of the others around you?
Yeah, always. Always.
Tell about that. What does that feel like?
It's hard to say because when I'm mountaineering, it's like Zen focus, and it's like it's all there, but it's not. It's hard to explain. I'm not as good a storyteller as T.I., but it's more like it's just there and not attention grabbing, right? Because you're so focused.
Right. But you just sense it around you. Or not.
I wouldn't even say I sense it. Like, I know that it's, because, honestly, mountaineering is like, it's a crazy thing to do. And so, you're in wilderness places where not a lot of people have been. A lot of people have, but it's not like traffic. And so, it's just part of being there. It's just part of being there. I'm not aware of it, but it's there.
You know it's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how many of you have been in a situation where you have to be present, where you can't let your guard down? You have to, those Zen moments where, mountaineering, seriously, your finger goes in the wrong place and that's the end of this existence. So that's extremely intense. But I'm guessing that not just Mimi or Mark or people who do mountaineering are in situations that are really intense. And even if you're not focusing on what's around you, maybe afterwards in reflection, you realize something's around you. I know for myself, I've had some experiences where decision making or really intense places where things are clearly spinning out of my control. For me, in my life, most of my challenges, well, a lot of my most obvious challenges have come physically from when I first got sick here in this place when I was 13. This is where I got Lyme disease and have had multiple physical challenges beyond this. That in those times, when you're in a place that could seem hopeless, a place that could seem, why keep doing this? Why go on dealing with something that is just hindering what you want, that you realize that what you want is not why you're here. Have you felt that? I'm guessing you have. If you're paying attention, you probably have. We set up expectations, and we set up a life where we do this, we do this, we do this, and we get this. And sometimes we need to pay attention that there's more beyond us, and that this whole big world, when I talk about the big wide world, it's not I don't say the whole wide world. I say the big wide world because it is beyond what you and I are doing on the surface with our feet in the dirt on this planet. There's so much more. So the sun is set, and we're here, and my arms are rested on this table, and my history is here, and my family is here, and my ancestors are here. I hope that each of you has a place like this where you can rest your arms or your soul on a proverbial table. It doesn't have to be this amazing pine table. Your history may have been thwarted from you. And Z, if you're watching this, your history may have been stolen from you or denied to you, but it's there. You have a table. We all have a table to rest our arms. We all have a place that connects us to our ancestors and to the things beyond us. We have a rock that fits in our hand that we did not take from a sacred place, but it was given to us after we left there. You might be saying, I don't have that. I don't have a rock from a sacred place. You do. You have something that anchors you and that connects you to all things. We all do. And I'm in this place that connects me to my ancestors and to spirits I've helped, and spirits I haven't yet. And here we are. We're just us. But we're not alone. Nope, we're not. And when we have to distance ourselves from other humans who could give us a virus that will kill us, there's more here to connect us than that. And perhaps that's the lesson. Maybe that's the thing that we are all trying to become aware of. Change is coming. Change is here. The time is right. The gate is open. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad I'm here for this. This painful birth to a new thing. Discovering the rock that appeared. Discovering the gifts that were given, physical or not, right? So, it may be not quite an hour, but we're done. And can you hear the fellas in the kitchen? Oh, I love you so much.
I love you so much, T.I. I feel so honored to be part of this. Thank you all for listening to my stories and T.I.'s stories. And we've all been very careful. That's why we can hug like
that's
this.
why we can hug, right? We've all been isolated and quarantined, and that's why we can hug like this. So, your ancestors are here. The universe is here. We're all here. And I'll still be here next Sunday. So next Sunday, I think I'll tell you some of my childhood stories from here. But peace to all of you. Be good to one another, please. It's so hard when you're stressed out. It's so hard to be kind. Do it anyway. Take care of the people you love, and take care of the people you don't know. All right. Have a really good night and a good week. And I'm spending this week up north. Yay! Goodbye, my friends.